Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show, highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyles, community, and neighborhood. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning and welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, did you survive the great snowstorm of last week?
I did.
It was a little much ado about nothing, huh?
No kidding. What a snowpocalypse that was.
So my guess is that last Saturday, everybody who lived in Moore County stayed home because they thought the roads were worse than they were.
Oh, yeah.
And then I got to thinking that in the wintertime, people spend more time in their home. Mm-hmm. They're not outdoors as much. And
that's because it's cold.
Well, guess what I did half the day? I
talked on your phone?
Huh?
I talked on your phone?
No. Well, no. Yeah, but I went through my house. I took inventory.
Uh-huh.
I checked out my floors, my window treatments. I checked out things that I wanted to do to, improve the house. Mm-hmm. Some of the tile needed regrouting. And I got to thinking that the wintertime is a good time for people to sort of take that inventory where they can make decisions about what triggers they might pull in the spring or the summer.
It's a good idea.
Because one of the things we do in Moore County is lots of people take a lot of pride in renovating and upgrading and tweaking their homes. Mm-hmm. But the seeds for those decisions have to be sown somewhere. And my hypothesis is that it probably happens in the cold winter months when we have these gargantuan snowstorms like we did.
Yes, when there's nothing else to do, you wander around your house and see what you can do to keep yourself busy.
Yeah. And the lady that I have joining me today has been a friend of mine for many years, Francy Thompson. People will know her from Total Design Solutions. Francy is sort of like a one-stop shopping interior designer. I've worked with her over the years. She was the catalyst on that renovation that I did in downtown Southern Pines, the Bush Cottage on Ash Street.
Oh, yeah, that place was beautiful.
Yeah, and it was great because Francie would just come to me like a third world leader and tell me this is what we're doing. And she would supply me with pictures of the appliance package, the trim package, the flooring, the window treatments, but then she wouldn't just supply me with them. She would give me reasons for every decision and why she was picking this color or that color or this blind or that blind. And this house was built in 1910. So with that as a backdrop, we have a lot of questions to ask her. We want to pick her brain. She just came back from Atlanta. Francie, you were at a show down there last week?
That's right. It was floor covering show. Floor
coverings. Your showroom at 250 West Morganton Road.
225.
225. Why did I say 250?
25 between friends?
I guess with the new administration, I'm already taking into account inflation. 225 West Morganton Road is a great one-stop shopping showroom for flooring, for knickknacks, for window coverings, so many things. It's quite a business you have.
Wallpaper, furniture.
Yeah.
Just about anything you can put in a home.
It's a lot larger than people realize, and it sits right across the street from the baseball field.
The lowest baseball field closest to Gold's Gym, and it is deceiving. The front is very narrow.
Right.
But the building goes all the way through to the next block.
It has 2 zip codes. That building has 2 zip codes. You're focusing on, for 2017, we want to pick your brain a little bit about some of the trends you see, because don't you agree that so many people who are buying homes that are, more than 15 years old, there's a real desire to want to spruce up, to want to bring homes into the present?
Well, especially with the change in the new year, a lot of people are thinking new. I want to refresh. I want to make things new, not just personally, but in their own homes as well.
Right.
Businesses as well.
Yeah. Tell me about the show you were at last week. What are you coming back with? for
Well,
this year?
there's a lot of categories to talk about,
Okay.
and I will break those out between the vinyls,
Yeah.
the woods, carpet, and stone. We have a few new things in stone.
Stone flooring.
Stone floors, stone walls.
I have to go back just real quickly before we get into that to this summer. We did a renovation on a home in Pinehurst, and it was a volunteer project. It was a situation where we were trying to help the seller put his home back into marketable condition and shape. And fortunately, we have the house under contract now, but you were instrumental in picking the colors for the house, the flooring, especially for the lower level. This was a home with a large lower level.
Basement.
A basement, right, but above ground.
Right.
And interestingly enough, some of the feedback that we got from brokers who showed the house, and I've never seen this before, some of the feedback was they liked the house, but they preferred the finishing on the lower level more than on the main level, which is just the opposite of what normally happens. And you picked an engineered flooring product that was
It is an engineered flooring product, but it's new in the market, and I have called it a waterproof laminate. It really is a hybrid of two things. So it has a laminate-like core,
Right.
in that it locks together, but it's made completely of plastic. So it's not that particle board core that you normally see in a laminate that if it gets wet, it can blow up or literally crumble apart. And then on top of that is a layer of vinyl, not a paper product like a laminate would be. So really, it is more of a locking vinyl system or a locking LVT meaning luxury vinyl tile.
and it's more durable.
So durable, it's almost impervious to anything you can throw at it, and it is completely waterproof, so you never have to worry about if the basement were to flood, this would actually survive it.
Wow. So calling it, because sometimes people give incorrect names to products, and I'm as guilty as the next person. Is that considered an engineered product?
Well, if you did, we use the term engineered for flooring as far as wood goes. So if you use the word engineered, you would almost instantly think of engineered wood flooring.
Right.
But so many products now are engineered in their process of becoming new. So this is engineered in the fact that someone actually sat down and thought this process out and designed it. But I wouldn't call it engineered flooring because we do have its own category, being that it does fall under the LVT category.
So if somebody is thinking of putting hardwoods in a house, you don't just talk about hardwoods, you talk about a whole litany of products. And I think most people get taken off guard. They go, "Oh, I didn't realize this existed."
That's true. Most people do get taken off guard, and they're actually overwhelmed at that point. We have two major categories in hardwoods,
Okay.
And we have our solids and we have our engineereds. And in the solid, we could talk about two different categories, being the pre-finished, or when it's laid as a natural state, it has no finish on it, and then it's sanded, stained, and sealed in place. So two different camps there as well, but I'm a huge engineered fan.
Okay.
Especially for our humid climate here, and in that basement you were talking about earlier, we would never ever want to put a solid wood product down on concrete. They just don't like each other. There's moisture coming up through that concrete, and it can really affect. A solid wood is a little finicky in its environment, so it doesn't like a lot of moisture, especially coming from underneath. It wants a very stable environment, so not a lot of degree changes one way or another, not a lot of humidity changes one way or another. So that's why I'm a huge fan of engineered. It can tolerate so much more.
You know, my house where I live was built in 1950, and I watch in front of the fireplace, especially last weekend when it snowed so much. The floors, they expand and they contract with the heat and the cold, and the grooves just widen. So I see with hardwood what happens. Not as much with engineered.
Not hardly at all with engineered, because the substrates are designed that it's very thin pieces of particle board that are crisscrossed. Every layer is turned the opposite direction, glued, pressed under high pressure. So that keeps it from, if it does expand and contract, which it will, all wood does, it goes evenly in each direction, and it keeps it down to a minimum, because you've got one direction wanting to expand, but the other direction is pulling it back in place. So it makes it a lot more stable.
Do your tutorials come for free with your consulting?
If you walk in the office, absolutely, I'll be glad to provide any education that's necessary.
Tell me about, there's confusion also with what is known as floating floors. People say, oh, you can put a hardwood or an engineered product on a slab, but it can go directly on the slab, or there are situations where can you talk about what a floating floor is?
Well, floating floors do carry across almost every category. I don't know of a floating solid wood floor, but there are many engineered floors that float. And how it floats, well, there's two different ways. One is by having a locking system with the tongue and groove. They lock to each other so that when you're walking across it, it doesn't move. You do want to have that installed pretty tightly against the wall, but you still, with wood, you still need to leave some expansion room. Mm-hmm. The same thing goes with vinyl. There are locking systems, but what's coming out new and a little more, I think, probably ingenuitive is our vinyls that have a gripping system on the bottom. And I think we'll probably see this move into some other categories as well, but it literally, it's almost like it grips itself to the floor underneath it. And it has to have a pressing point from the sides, or it will shift left to right.
Right.
But as far as it just moving around as you walk on it, it actually grips itself to the floor. So if you do damage a piece, you can pull that piece out and put another one in, and you're done.
You're like a forensic investigator, because I think when you go into a house, you probably look in the first 5 minutes at so many factors that dictate what you're going to suggest to the owner as to what their options are and why. I
pride myself on, you say I'm a forensic scientist. I feel like I'm more like a love connection. So I like to pride myself on putting the person and the product that actually want to marry and live together happily ever after.
Right. And you do that against a backdrop of a lot of people, all they can focus on is the cost up front. And then you have to kind of work back from, it's a delicate dance that you do because you want to marry the value, the what's best for the house long term.
Budget is often a factor, but sometimes there's the I want factor too, and
right.
I want and what really will work in that space may not be the same thing. So there's a little bit of give and take.
Right.
There are so many people who want wood in kitchens and baths.
And laundry rooms.
And laundry rooms.
Right.
That's the worst.
You ever throw wet laundry on hardwood, Dorothy?
I cannot imagine it.
Or Dorothy, have you ever had a washing machine leak in a laundry room?
Yes, actually,
That's
I have.
when you're in big trouble if you have wood in that laundry room and it carries out.
Right.
If that wood keeps carrying throughout the whole house, it can end up on the other end of the house.
Right.
And you don't know it until it's too late if it's a small, slow leak.
Yeah, that's
and we've
awful.
seen that behind ice maker lines behind refrigerators. We see it behind dishwashers, under a sink, and someone doesn't have any idea they've got this tiny pinhole leak. And one morning they wake up and they have a roller coaster across their entire floor.
But the response that you get from some people, especially traditional people, oh, hardwood looks so good in a kitchen, and it looks so good, wherever you're putting appliances on top of it, or can you? But Francy, I've listened to her, and when you mention hardwood in kitchens, her head spins like Reagan in The Exorcist, and she comes back to, and she says no, and she has to explain. There's a lot of explaining that you have to do.
There is, and it's not that I won't do hardwoods in kitchens. I do it all the time, but I have to make the homeowner understand that it is not the best choice.
Right.
But if they really want it, they're going to have to take some precautions, and they're going to have to be cautious. They're going to have to do those inspections every 6 months or so often. Make sure your ice maker is not leaking. Make sure your dishwasher's not leaking. There's pans now that you can put under dishwashers made of plastic. That I recommend. I've not seen one on the market yet for a refrigerator. I should invent that because I think I could make some big money, but it needs to be invented. And any other dishwasher, washing machine, anything else, ice machines, those are notorious for leaking. So those are the things that you have to be just so cautious about. So if I'm talked into it, you're going to have to understand as a homeowner that you've got some work to do in your future.
So you're a big advocate of tile, of engineered products for those rooms, because if there's a leak on hardwood, you don't know it right away.
That's right.
It
Most of the
sneaks-
time you don't. It creeps down through the tongue and groove joint because there's still space for it to go under, and of course wood is a porous material, so it's soaking it up along the way as well.
Yeah. A consultation, whether you go in for flooring or window treatments, I mean, you don't even know where the conversation will go until you engage the owners, till you assess the property, the environment, the age. There's so many factors and people just take it for granted. But what you did on the Bush Cottage was, what I really liked the most was that you had a reason for every decision. You didn't just say, well, this feels right. You backed it up, and that spoke to my listening. But not everybody is alike. You have to sort of go back into your repertoire of history with people, and you've got to always speak to their listening at the same time.
That's right, and that goes back to the mirroring the person with the product. And sometimes people don't know what they want, or maybe they haven't figured out what they want until you've told them what they want.
Right.
That happens a lot.
Right.
One of the biggest mistakes I see people make is assuming that a wood product, and especially when you start talking about an engineered product, is that it won't scratch. Yeah. All wood scratches. Yeah. As a matter of fact, almost all floors scratch.
We're going to come back, Dorothy, in the second set. We're sitting here speaking with 110 pounds of conviction, and we're going to tap her brain.
Way off, but I'll take it.
Not just on flooring, but on a lot of other things, and about your business in general, and the fact that you are actually going through a little bit of a change in marketing and direction for 2017. We're going to talk about that. Our guest is Francy Thompson from Total Design Solutions, and we're going to be speaking about kind of everything home today, everything that has to do with the house, and spring plans and renovations. We'll be right back.
There's always something happening, and it's usually quite loud. Our mum, she's so house proud. In the middle of our street, our house. In the middle of our house, it has a crowd. There's always something happening, and it's usually quite loud. Our mum, she's so house.
We are back talking with Francy Thompson from Total Design Solutions. We have a lot of information to cover. We might as well just start from the ground up, and let's pick your brain a little bit about the new trends in floor coverings. We've spoken a little bit about hardwood and engineered in the first set, and we didn't get into tile much, but was a lot of this, you've seen this coming down the road, plus it was reinforced last week in Atlanta?
Yes, we're seeing the biggest expansion, and have seen the biggest expansion in both LVT wood looks and engineered. So we've not seen hardly any growth in the pre-finished solid wood selections. They're still out there. They're just not as popular as they used to be, but we have so many more selections in not just color, but in texture, in engineered flooring and LVT wood look. The LVT wood looks are now starting to add texture to the top, and when they're installed, it is really difficult to tell that it is not a real wood product. And I'm starting to use these in whole house installations for families that have lots of kids, lots of pets, especially big dogs. Big dogs and their claws are the absolute worst on a hardwood floor. I'm sure you've seen it 1,000 times when you're showing houses.
You know, the house that I just finished renovating at 635 PD Road, it had hardwoods. It was built in 73. So I had the floor screened and polyurethane. The scratches from the dogs, you can't, they're there forever. Landlords beware. That non-refundable pet deposit is definitely worth it, and don't feel like you're being a hard person by insisting on it, because as much as I love dogs, they do damage to homes.
That's why a lot of landlords will limit the weight of an animal.
Right, they do.
Under 30 pounds, under 40 pounds, and honestly, the heavier the dog, and I love dogs too, but the heavier, the bigger the dog, the deeper that scratch is going to get. And there's some cool products on the animal side of it. There's caps that you can actually have installed on your dog's claws.
Caps?
Little caps, and of course, now they come in different colors.
You're kidding.
It's amazing. They actually do work, and when you take your dog to get the nails trimmed, those will come off, and then they'll just put a new set on, but they're super glued on. And they're made of a rubber plastic combo, so you don't even hear as much clicking across a hardwood floor as you would with the dog that doesn't have them on. So it's actually a good product. And I would say some dogs might not tolerate it, but most dogs I've seen, and for the clients I've had that I've seen that have had these put on their dogs, and they make them for cats too. I don't think it's as big of a success with cats, but they really do work. And I'm trying to remember that. I'm sure if you Googled, caps for dogs' claws, that would probably come up 10,000 different ones, but they're out there. But as far as engineered flooring goes, what we're seeing across the board is even more texture, and we had seen a lot of hand scrapes. Now we're seeing a lot more of wire brushing. To give people out there listening a little quick description of wire brushing, there is a huge roll with very stiff wires coming out of it, and that's rolled across the surface of the wood, and it digs out the grain. So then that grain pops when it receives the stain and the finish over the top. So that's more we're seeing of that. We're seeing more color. We have had a limit because of the recession, and now we're finally starting to get back to pre-recession numbers. We're finally starting to see companies investing in giving us a little more variety. In ceramics, the big new deal are these inkjet printers, where we used to roll the finish on top of ceramic or porcelain tile.
Right.
Now it's printed just like it would come out of your printer with the inkjets, and it's so much more defined that it looks so realistic. You can put a piece of faux Carrara on a porcelain or ceramic against a real piece of Carrara, and you almost can't tell. It takes a really a person who really knows the product to be able to tell the difference.
Is it like stamping?
Stamping's what we used to see. So this is actually ink just coming out of those jets. So it's pretty high pressure, but it's very tight and fine, and so you get amazing detail. So it's a whole different process of printing on tile, and a lot of people don't realize that tile is not manufactured coming out looking that way. It's a fired product. Both ceramic and porcelain are fired so that they're baked just like a cake. All the moisture's pulled out of it, and then a color is put on top. And a lot of people think that ceramic gets produced that way, but it doesn't. It's a multi-step process.
If people are wrapped up in the concept of soft, neutral colors in the house, then adding texture to the flooring is a way to make the room pop.
Absolutely, and interest.
Do I sound like your assistant now?
He's learning.
That's right, isn't it? It makes sense.
It does. It does. But you do have to be careful, because if you start with a busy floor,
Yeah.
then you don't want busy everything else.
Busy rugs, busy throw rug. Yeah.
Right.
You gotta
Lots
be
of crazy
careful.
wall colors, lots of crazy art. Yes. If a floor is busy, it probably needs to steal the show.
So I have a question. So let's say you're laying tile or any kind of ceramic. The design of the layout then would also be, you can do a square it up, you can do a diagonal, but if you do an intricate pattern and then you start to ink it, could that be too busy?
Not necessarily. If you're doing that with the same stone, let's use stone for example. If you were using a large format, and that's the biggest movement we're seeing in natural stone, ceramic, and porcelains, is we're going to these huge tiles. I just spec'd out one for someone that's 24 by 48.
Oh my gosh.
It's huge. And we're seeing this because people are sick of cleaning grout. They do not like the grout lines. Even though we've had a massive...
Dorothy's nodding her head,
she's
yes.
nodding her, it's not fun, Dorothy, I know. But we've seen a great improvement in the last 5 years in our grout products.
Right.
They still will discolor,
Right.
and you still have to clean them.
Right.
So that's why we're seeing these large format tiles, and I think they're going to get even bigger. But the problem is shipping. So they've
my gosh.
really got to figure this out before it becomes mass marketed.
Tile is so heavy.
And then the other new, it's really taking off, the other new advancement in stone especially is using these water jet cutters, and they're so precise that we're seeing all these great shapes, and especially in backsplash tiles or mosaics, and they're taking different stones and putting them together, and it's great because it's using some things that otherwise would have been discarded into a big pile in the back of someone's fabrication center. So if you had a 2x4 piece of stone that was left over, that now becomes a raw material that you can make something out of, and they're just beautiful. We're especially seeing that in stone products. Arabesque shapes, little oval shapes. It's just ovals. It's amazing what they're doing with these.
So you start the process, you meet the owner, you go to the house, and then step 2 is they need to come to your showroom, or do you just take the samples out with you? Is it easier to work out of your showroom?
It is much easier to start in the showroom.
Start in the showroom.
I'd rather start in the showroom and then come to your house.
Oh.
We kind of everyone brings in pictures. So almost everyone that walks in the showroom has said, hey, here's a picture of my room. So most of the time it is easier to start there because there's so much to educate someone on and narrow down what product I think they might need, and then I'll bring samples to you. But these things are so heavy and cumbersome that they're very difficult, so I can't bring my whole showroom to you, but you can come in and see me, and then we can narrow it down. And then the last category to talk about is carpet. And I saw something at this show I've never seen before, and it was pretty fascinating. Carpet's not seen any kind of innovation for a long time other than what it's made of.
Right.
This carpet, Mohawk is using as a prototype. They've actually taken a thick felt and put it on the back of this carpet. And there's several reasons they've tried this. Did you know that the average age of a certified installer is 57 years old?
Of a carpet installer?
All installers that are certified. Young people are not wanting to get into it. It's back-breaking, knee-busting
Yes,
work.
it is.
It is very difficult work.
Yep.
So we are starting to see a big-time shortage in this group of people who know what they're doing. So the installers that are coming on the scene are more like wanting the quick buck to get it. They don't want to go through the education. They don't want to work as an apprentice for someone who's very experienced. So the manufacturers are trying to, in turn, give us some products that can go down a little easier.
So the carpet goes down easier. Is the wearability and the resistance?
Well, we're going to have to work on that. Right now, it's only available in a poly, and poly is not my favorite choice in a carpet. But what I saw was a T-seam, which is one roll of carpet, and then two more that are butted to each other and then butted to the main carpet. And I could not see the seams in this. And you had asked me about floating floors earlier.
Yeah.
This is a floating carpet. We have never seen this before because carpet needs to be stretched.
Right.
This carpet doesn't get stretched. It's always stretched in the manufacturing process. That's why it has to come back in your home and be stretched again.
Right.
This carpet's not stretched in the manufacturing process. So it's attached to this felt backing, which makes it a little,
tight.
even though it rolls, but it makes it stiff
Oh.
and it stays in place. So it's pretty fascinating that we're seeing this new innovation in carpet, and we've not seen innovation in carpet for a long time other than the fiber. We have some fibers that are absolutely amazing now.
Amazing how.
Well, Mohawk has come out with a product called Smart Strand, and it's made of, believe it or not, corn
Corn.
and recycled bottles. Mohawk is one of the largest recycler of plastic bottles, mainly water bottles.
Okay.
And crushed up to tiny, tiny little pellets.
Right.
And then that's melted and dissolved into a liquid with corn, so it's sustainable. But you can pour bleach on this carpet, and it won't affect it. As a matter of fact, they put it in a pen with a rhinoceros for a week. And then they cleaned it, and it cleaned up beautifully. They've also used it at the end of a mud run. Have you heard of a mud run where people literally are caked in mud as they cross the finish line?
I've seen it on Facebook, and I just turn it off.
Yeah, me too. That's not for me.
That's not for me either.
So they put it at the finish line of a mud run, cleaned up beautifully.
Really?
So it's just we do a little demonstration in the office where we dunk a piece in a fish tank of red wine and pull it out, blot it, it comes back to white.
We're winding down, but real quick question. What about the odor-resistant capabilities of this type of carpet?
It's good you bring that up. They are addressing that,
Okay.
and Beaulieu has already got something called Magic Fresh in their carpet, and Mohawk now has a odor resistancy that they're putting in their carpet. It's not available wide across the line, but it's coming.
Okay. We'll be back in the third set speaking with Francy Thompson, Total Design Solutions. Lots more to talk about.
In the middle of our street, our house. In the middle of our Our mum, she's so house proud. Nothing ever slows her down, and a mess is not allowed. Our house in the middle of
We're back in our third and final set with Francy Thompson of Total Design Solutions. There's a name change in our near future coming. We want to talk about that. It's going to be, your business is going to be called Total Flooring and Finishes. And in this set, I'd like to talk to you about finishes. But before we do, I want to go back to something early in the second set that you spoke about, and that was pre-finished floors. And I think we were talking about hardwoods. So one of the questions people always seem to ask, what are the differences between pre-finished floors and unfinished that have to get done while they're in the home? What's the difference in price? Is there a difference in durability? And does engineered flooring only come in pre-finished?
So if you already own a solid hardwood and you are only refinishing that, it is less expensive to refinish that floor than to rip it up and put new. But if you are starting from scratch between a sand and seal is what we call that unfinished product.
Right.
And if we were comparing apples to apples, a pre-finished solid product, it's going to be close to equal. There are different reasons for doing both. We do see a slight beveled edge in a pre-finished product, and that is so that the installer has just a little bit of a fudge factor there.
Right.
In a sand and seal product, there is no bevel, so it's completely flat. So you do get if that little edge bothers you, if you're an absolute complete neat freak, maybe sand and seal's better for you. The disadvantage is that we can never achieve that durability in the finish when you're applying a finish in the field versus the finish applied in the factory. They use a product called aluminum oxide in these finishes that make it just almost rock hard. Not saying it can't scratch, because it can and it will scratch. Wood products will, but it certainly gives us more durability in a pre-finished.
So it's a misnomer then, because some people think that a pre-finished floor is a less expensive floor, and that's just not true.
Typically not the case. We may save a little bit of money if we went with an engineered product. That's where you may save a little bit of money. But a lot of people choose engineered for so much variety out there in selection and in just its ability to adjust climate-wise. Just a little more of a more durable product as far as what it can tolerate.
And as far as engineered floors, I've never seen, all the engineered floors that I've seen of different materials have always been finished products.
And believe it or not, that exists. There is there are several companies out there who will do a pre-finished, and some people are looking for a very thick wear layer on an engineered. They want the ability of the engineer to be able to adjust in climates, but they may want to refinish it in the future. So we look for wear layer on that, and there's some companies out there who have a very, very thick wear layer on an engineered product. And here's why we would do engineered unfinished in an existing house. We have had instances where someone has taken a sunroom that may have had a concrete floor and opened it up to the house, and they had a solid product in the house which they're going to refinish.
Right.
Well, we can't put that solid on the concrete floor that is now butting up against this product. So we're using unfinished engineered to install on the concrete that will then marry up to the solid that's in the house.
Okay. Safe to say, if you're thinking of doing different types of flooring in your house and you have kids and pets, go engineered.
Vinyl all day long.
Vinyl? Okay, so vinyl has to the layman, a negative connotation. Can you talk about that a little bit?
And it's still there, and we're getting over it because there's so many great selections and product. And you will spend on a good vinyl as much as you will spend on a wood floor, but the durability is going to be there. It's very resistant to scratches. I will not say it won't scratch, because everything will scratch. It's impervious to accidents. So an older pet that leaks, that's an easy cleanup on a wood floor. It's going to soak down into that. It's going to stain. It's going to discolor. What we see, though, that's the problem with vinyl LVT floors, or even with laminate floors, is dogs have a kind of a spin out factor when they go to run. Their feet sort of stay right underneath them.
Yeah.
So the more texture you can put in that product,
right,
the more they have
traction.
grip. And then I also tell people to put out scatter rugs, especially if they have older pets, and that gives them, something to walk across and some traction, and something that might have a rubber grip underneath it.
Okay. A couple of weeks ago, you did I thought it was a great idea. You had an open house at your showroom, and it was to real estate brokers.
That's correct.
So that they could come in, and you had some of the contractors that you have good relationships with, that you work with, from builders, flooring people, carpet people, and you had a pretty good turnout. And people, they go into a library and they look up and they see all these books, and they I can open the book and read and think. But in your showroom, it's like an open book library, because every time I walk in there, there's so many ideas you get, because everything is out in display and the possibilities are right there. And I guess that's where the finishes in the name Total Floor and Finishes come in. Can we talk a little bit about the finishes? Because there are tons of them there.
it's everything that eye can see and the hand can touch is a finish in a home. So I just made a little list while we were in the break, just to remind myself.
While you were working on your new phone.
That's right, my iPhone 7. We're talking about cabinets, countertops, hardware, faucets or any type of plumbing, floors, paint, wallpaper, window coverings, furniture. The list just goes on and on. It's everything that I can see or the hand can touch. Sometimes even behind the scenes, what's inside a cabinet often makes a big difference. We have all these great components for cabinets now. And when I do cabinet designs, I like to throw in a few bells and whistles like pull-outs that hold utensils that you can get them off the countertop.
The, a couple of weeks ago on that house that I was renovating on PD Road, I called you to order. I needed some blinds and window coverings for this new Carolina room, which was a screen porch. And some people, I will tell you, they'll walk into your showroom and maybe get intimidated because of all the things that they say. Not me. I was perfectly happy just to call you and say I need some blinds. And I didn't think to myself, well, that's just too small for her. I won't bother her with it. I'll go somewhere else. But that isn't the case, is it?
What we're seeing with the consumer that's probably Gen X and younger, they have educated themselves before they come in my showroom. So a lot of times they know exactly what they want. They have done their research. They have shopped online, and now they want to see it because, nothing online ever looks like what it does in reality.
Right.
So that's probably 80% of the people walking through the door. The other 20 have a kind of a general idea what they want. And those folks, I think, do feel a little intimidated, but if I ask enough questions when they first walk through the door, we can usually steer them in the right direction, and then that pulls a little bit of that anxiety away.
Your showroom is at 225 West Morganton Road. It's convenient to downtown Southern Pines, to Pinehurst. Are you planning in the future, especially with the new name and your focus, of having more open houses, similar to what you had a few weeks ago?
We're planning some open houses, and we also want to do some charity events. So with this, Mohawk has come out with an all-pet warranty.
An all-pet?
All-pet. So a lot of the pet warranties you will see on carpet will cover dogs and cats.
Oh, okay. Just kidding.
Mohawk will cover even reptiles. Rabbits are the worst. There's a huge staining problem with rabbits. But Mohawk actually had to go into a claim for a woman who had a pet alligator.
What?
No kidding.
Sounds like one of those insurance commercials on TV.
It really does.
We've been there. We've seen it. That's why we know.
That goes on the wall.
Yeah, really.
Yes, so their warranty covers everything, and we really want to try to partner up with some of the pet agencies and do an event with that.
When you said that, you made me remember when I was a kid, I had baby rabbits. It's a true story. And I would put newspapers down in the garage, and I'd have to, take care of them and clean up the papers. Well, the staining on the floors after they went through the paper, and the smell, rabbits are really bad.
They're one of the worst pets out there as far as, I don't know what's in that urine, but it is
it's
some
awful.
Strong stuff. So rabbits are covered under this carpet.
You remind me of that insurance commercial. What is it that's covered? There's so many of them now, and they all take a humorous bent. None of them are real serious. They try to entertain and then to lure you in. Stay away from rabbits, right?
I don't know. They're awfully cute.
Do you do a lot of consulting with new construction?
Yes. Not just new construction, but remodeling as well. Remodeling is often trickier because you have an existing structure that you may have to have a grand solution for that obviously it didn't work the first go around. So with new construction, you have that ability to bend and twist it however you want. But with remodeling, sometimes you're having to reinvent the wheel.
And remodeling can actually take longer than new construction.
You've got to deconstruct before you construct.
A good friend of mine contacted me last night. He and his wife and their 4 children are looking at a 6 to 8 month remodel project on their home. And before they pull the trigger on that, they want to go out and look at the 4 or 5 best homes in the area that the layout might accommodate their needs better. It'll be a lot less expensive on a square foot basis, but they have to be wowed to do it. Otherwise, the remodel commitment you have to have patience.
You do, and I'm glad your friend called you. And I often suggest when I'm working with a remodel client to call a realtor friend or someone that they've worked with in the past to see how viable the changes that they're going to make will be in a future market.
Right. And we actually set them up with an appraiser who went out to look at what they were proposing to do. And they have not just a nuclear family, but an extended family. And so their requirements are, they have high requirements to make everybody happy. And you've got 4 kids at 4 different ages. I mean, there are a lot of perspectives going on in that house.
But I always tell people, if you plan on being there more than 5 years, and so many people get wrapped up and caught up in the resale value, you've got to have some value for your lifestyle and your family. And I tell people, if you're going to be there more than 5 years, really do what you feel like you want to do, what's in your heart to do. Now, if it's a huge mistake, I will tell you, but you've got to have some quality of life and enjoyment out of this humongous expense you're getting ready to take on.
What about the people who are buying an older home, who have grand designs because they love the lot, the layout works? We always say, always focus on walls and floors.
Master baths and kitchens.
So now that the list has expanded, master baths and kitchens, because people enjoy the process of making it their own, but in order to do that, they have to make sure they buy it right, versus the client that just wants to buy brand new at any cost just because they want to move in on day one and feel good. And that's a very viable portion of the buying public. But you probably get more involved with that first group where they want to go in and you did a home in Clarendon Gardens for some friends of mine, and they had a laundry list of things to do. This was a home that was built in the early 80s on a gorgeous piece of property, but the home needed everything.
They did not take down any walls, which is what we typically see of a home of the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. But it's hardly unrecognizable now,
right,
compared to what it was.
Right.
So just that updating, refreshing, changing wall color. I think they redid the kitchen. We put new blinds in. We did a beautiful new mantle. Mm-hmm. It's hardly recognizable, and it is just instantly modernized. And they're a young couple, so it works well for them.
And you're right. They didn't change the layout, and that's huge. If you're going to buy a property, if you don't have to change the layout, that saves you money. Then you can just focus on the cosmetic upgrades. And
that's really all this house needed, was the cosmetic.
Yeah. One of the things you also do, and we've used you for this quite a lot, is people poo-poo it, but you do color consultations.
Did one yesterday.
Can we talk about what's entailed?
Well, if you look at a paint chart, there are thousands of colors,
right,
and every year paint companies are coming out with new colors. So you talk about being overwhelmed. That's where I think people get the most overwhelmed. And every now and then I'll see someone on Pinterest that has gone out and bought 15 little color swatches and painted them all on one wall, and of course that's just going to confuse them even more. I try to tell people to limit it to 3 choices, and you'll typically find a color that works for you in 3. And remember, you're going to cover that wall up with furniture, with artwork. Right. So it really is just a backdrop. And you've got to think about it that way, as it just being a backdrop for whatever you're going to place in front of it.
Right. When you go into a home on an initial consultation, or they come to your showroom, is there a consulting fee that you work on, or how do you work with people? Is it one set way, or? If
you come see me, we'll just talk about where we want to go from there, and there's no charge. The only initial charge is if we are talking color. and you want some space planning advice, or if there's some type of construction advice that you need, there's a consulting fee. But other than that, we're just going to talk about where we're going to go from here.
Yeah, and you set that out right up front, so
Right.
everyone, you're managing everybody's expectations.
Right.
So your website is going to be going through a name change.
That's correct.
You are going to stay at 225 West Morganton Road.
Until I die.
Okay.
I hope to never move again.
That's what I said about my house. I'm done. They'll bury
Yeah.
me in the
Been-
camellia bushes. I'm
Been
not
through two
moving.
of those with you. I hope you do stay put.
I am going to stay put. I get itchy every once in a while, but
I'll remind you.
remind me. Your office number, people can reach you?
910-246-8046.
Okay. And the website will be out, but not yet.
It's still, right now, it's still tdsinteriordesign.com. We'll have that website conversion in the next few months.
And you have a Facebook page as well.
Right.
So people can go just under Total Design Solutions.
Correct.
And they can find you. 2017 should be a very brisk year. Certainly 2016 was. Lot of challenges, lot of younger buyers, but older souls. And those are
Right.
the ones that want to come in and make some changes.
I think where we'll see the most movement is in remodeling. I don't think
Yeah.
we'll see quite as much, or maybe equal to the new construction that we've seen in the past, but I think we're getting ready to see a huge boom in remodeling.
Even a friend of mine who just purchased a newly built home, a beautiful home, she has these beautiful windows, no window coverings. She's got everything set up. She got very interactive in the process. She did a beautiful job with the colors and the flow. And so, but now she's in, and now she's looking and doesn't have any privacy. And
In a fishbowl.
in a fishbowl. Well, kind of, because it's in a good location, but still
That's good.
privacy. So window treatments are next, and
Well, light control is important too. If you're trying to work in the home and you've got a light blasting through on your computer screen, you can't see it. So there's two reasons for window coverings.
yeah, Francy, it's always great. You're always a font of information. It should be a busy year, and I have a feeling we'll be seeing you a lot down the road. And I would invite anybody after they get out of their winter doldrums, they call this winter. Check your house out, look around, go into the Total Designs Solutions showroom, and it will just open up the floodgates of ideas and things you can do creatively.
Thank you, and I look forward to anyone coming in.
Yeah, good luck with your phone, by the way. You'll get it working.
I will. I have teenagers at home.
Thanks. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Everybody, have a great week. We'll talk to you next week.
House proud. Nothing ever slows her down, and a mess is